In this lesson, we'll learn about the principle of solid drawing. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we have the line work for a little cartoon pig character that I've created. And I just want to talk to you about some of the different qualities that you can have when you create a solid drawing. So this drawing here has a few things that really I would like to change to push it more towards something that feels like a solid drawing. A solid drawing has a good sense of weight and depth and balance. And it also really shows us a strong sense of volume that is also flexible. And then most importantly, a solid drawing doesn't have any twinning to it, which is really what this drawing has. When I say twinning, I mean that you have mirroring that's taking place here with this particular design, where each side of the head is exactly the same as the other. So the right side is an exact copy of the left. Same thing with the torso and especially the legs as well. It's just a mirrored copy on each side. Now this doesn't apply to the arms because they're positioned differently. Okay. So we want to go ahead and re-sketch this out in a fashion that doesn't feel like it's twinned, and also we want to still push for a stronger sense of weight and depth and balance. So if you look over here in the layers section of our timeline view, we have our drawing right there. And then I also have a layer for our sketching to sketch out the new pose, and then this layer here titled Solid Drawing is where I'll eventually place just some nice clean line work so we can see it a little bit more clearly. So I use this black swatch to do the line work, and what I'm going to temporarily do, I'm just double clicking on it, and in the color picker I'm going to pull the alpha down quite a ways just so I can kind of see it ghosted out. Okay, and then on my sketch layer I'm just going to use this blue swatch right here, which basically has its alpha pulled down just a little ways. And of course, using my brush tool, and I'll try to make us a little bit of room here if I can. Our interface is kind of crunched down, squeezed down a little bit for recording purposes. Okay, and so I'll kind of start with the head, kind of thinking about, kind of a 3/4 kind of view for our little pig character's head here. I think a 3/4 view will be a little bit more interesting just for the entire body. That way we're not looking at it dead on. That can sometimes be just a little bit boring. So just kind of thinking about where that snout is. And this is just a loose sketch, mind you. It's not meant to be perfectly clear. I use a sketch, and then on another layer I will work in the clean line work. Okay, so just kind of thinking about what that head looks like, kind of just from the 3/4 view. And I think it would be kind of cool just to make it more interesting. Maybe we'll put a lot of his weight on his left leg and maybe kick out that other leg. That might be just a little bit more fun instead of him just standing there, So whenever you draw a character from different views, you just want to think about, how some of the different attributes will change as far as how you can see them. Might give him like a tuft of hair too. I kind of feel like that might kind of help add to the dimension. So this already feels like it has just a little bit more depth than the straight on view. Kind of get a stronger sense of the form. Okay, and then instead of looking at the body straight on, we'll kind of look at it more from kind of a 3/4 view. So something like that. We'll see more of this little shoulder part of the shirt. I'll still have his arm on the side of his waist there. Something like that. And then might have this arm right here kind of up a little bit more, just so it reads better, just as a design. Something kind of like that. And then this leg here, I'll kind of keep it pretty similar. But then the other one, I kind of want to kick it out just a little bit. Kind of kicking that little foot out there. And that kind of gives us a little stronger sense of balance just with the overall design. Kind of balances out with the arm that's out there as well. But you can kind of make that comparison. And so that's just a lot more interesting. It's just a lot more fun than what we have to begin with right there. Okay. Okay. And I can kind of keep kind of refining this the way I want, but that's pretty close to what I want there. So much like I've done in other videos in this course, I'm going to pause real quick and I'm going to start to put down some clean line work. I'm just going to use this black swatch. I'm going to bring it back up to full opacity there basically. And on this solid drawing layer, I'm just going to come in here and start to just kind of put in my clean line work. And again, I mentioned this earlier, I have a course in our online library where it's kind of an introduction to character design in Toon Boom Harmony, and I cover a lot of these different tools that you can use over here, such as the brush tool, the pencil tool, cutter tool, things that can really be useful when you're designing your character. We also talk about different modes here as well. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I think you'll find it beneficial. Okay, so here we are with our clean line work that I placed over that sketch, just so you can see it a little bit more clearly. And now I want to once again go ahead and make a comparison between the solid drawing and that initial drawing. So you can see how that's just a lot more engaging. It's a lot more fun. I think we convey a stronger sense of balance, of depth. We have a stronger three-dimensional quality of the character. And I think the weight is also distributed better as well. And it still feels flexible enough. That's something you also want to think about, is the volume still flexible? You want to think about, how you're going to be able to move this character around, whether you're going to take a more puppet kind of approach here in Toon Boom, or if you want to do it more traditional. Okay. So having a good solid drawing, you can convey a good sense of strength that is not rigid, right? And most of all, I don't have any twinning in this example, so it just feels a lot stronger. Okay, and so what I've already done as well during the little break there, I went ahead and added some color, and I threw in a little bit of animation. If you could, come over here to the layers section of our timeline view and expand this group, this title Anim. And I basically broke the character down into separate pieces. And again, check out our course on our character design course for Toon Boom Harmony, where you can kind of learn about that. And you can see all the different hierarchies I have here. And I just added a little bit of animation to kind of have him waving. So that arm is basically structured very much the same as the arm example we used in our lesson on follow through and overlap. Okay, so if you've already watched that lesson, then you will pretty well understand how I was able to kind of animate that right there. It's just a real simple example, okay? But the focus here is the solid drawing aspect of it. And another thing that you can do, once you kind of have your solid drawing there, is you could maybe take, you could still use black. We might kind of bump up our size here. And just kind of come through. You probably want to do it on another layer if you want to be careful. But you could come through here and just fill this whole thing in. And I'll kind of do this really roughly, but kind of fill it in, and you can kind of start to see what it looks like as a silhouette. A silhouette will also be another thing to kind of measure how well does the pose read. Silhouettes are great, whether you're kind of creating a pose for animation or just an illustration or whatever. It's just a great way to kind of get a sense of how well will something read visually. Okay, and already I can tell just by filling this in, and it's kind of rough, mind you, but I can already get a sense that I can look at this and understand that's a character waving. I'll go ahead and undo that there. Now, coming back to that initial drawing, this drawing is still fine because if you're doing character turnarounds, which is always a good approach, that'll help you kind of get a good, strong sense of what does he look like from the front. You would also probably want to do a side view drawing, and that'll actually help reinforce your ability to draw it maybe from a 3/4 view as well. So don't think that you can't draw a character like that. Okay. All right, so hopefully you've kind of found this a little bit beneficial. Just kind of think about that with your character's poses in your animations, whether you're doing it in 3D or here in Toon Boom as a kind of a cutout style like this, or if you're doing it traditionally where you're drawing it out just frame by frame, which we do have a course that involves traditional animation here in Toon Boom as well. So definitely check that one out. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about another principle. Again, these are principles that were established by Disney animators back in the early days of 2D animation. So our next principle will be appeal. So we'll talk about how we can make a character just look more appealing to be used for animation. So stick around and we'll see you then.